Thing, hiring fairs and Lammas games. Things were an Anglo-Saxon or Norse annual assembly where the earl, jarl or ealdorman would sort out issues or disputes and also receive taxes that would need to be paid. It was also an annual get-together to sell wares and farm produce, meet up with friends from farms and villages, and meet potential partners. Hiring fairs. These were a later version of thing tides or things. Everyone would meet up. Farmers would be looking to recruit strong, fit workers to help with the harvest. The labourers would be assured a roof over their head for at least the winter, if not for the following whole year. Hand fastings may also be carried out because people would not necessarily meet at other times of the year. And Lammas games. At the fairs, there would be games like tug of war, exhibitions of strength, wrestling matches, etc. This was to show just how strong and fit men were prior to being hired. These were also known as the Lammas games, and what follows in the next few slides will be some ideas of the sort of things that used to be done. Lammas. This is an old Scottish schoolyard game called Lammas, which originated with the custom of cowhands at hiring fairs putting straw in their mouths to show their occupation. To play the game, each contestant must grip a straw between his or her chin and bottom lip. The winner is the one who can recite the following rhyme most times without dropping the straw. I bought a beard at Lammas fair. It's away but a hairy hag and beardy wag. Arm wrestling. This is one of the warrior games we often play at Lughnasadh and Lammas, and are probably already familiar with it. Two people face each other across a narrow table, place their right elbows on it and grip the hand of their opponent and try to force it down onto the table. The elbow must not be lifted off the table. Horseshoe pitching. The stake should stand around 15 inches high and tilt slightly towards the thrower. The pitching area should be about 6 feet wide and about 50 feet long. Divided into teams of 2, each player throws 2 shoes, taking it in turn. Men pitch the shoes over a distance of 40 feet from the stake. Women and players under 17 throw from a distance of around 30 feet. Players pitch the shoes from an underhand. Players control the shoes with their fingertips to flip them so the open end lands facing the stake. So scoring. A ringer scores 3 points and consists of a shoe that encircles the stake in such a way that a straight edge can touch both tips of the shoe without touching the stake. If a shoe comes to rest within 6 inches of the stake, 1 point is scored, and a shoe that leans against the stake or leaner is also worth 1 point. Each player throws 10 shoes. Prison bars. A traditional Lammas-tide game that originates in Shropshire, England. 2 teams face one another with arms linked. The object of the game is to reach the opposite side of the pitch. When a player attempts to run to the opposite end of the pitch, one but only one of his opponents gives chase and attempts to stop him. With several players from each team running in different directions, the game can get somewhat chaotic. A point is scored for each successful run or for stopping an opponent. In its original form, the game can get fairly rough, but a tamer version can be played by turning it into a game of tag. The game can be made more or less difficult according to the target area on which one's opposite number has to be touched, and by varying the length of the pitch. Tag, also called chase, tig, it, tiggy, tips, tick, on, or tip. This is a playground game involving one or more players chasing other players in an attempt to tag and mark them out of play, typically by touching with a hand. There are many variations. Most forms have no teams, scores or equipment. Usually when a person is tagged, the tagger says it, tag, you're it, or tag. The last one tagged during the tag is it for the next round. In other words, they're the one that chases after people. The game is known by other names in various parts of the world, including running and catch in India, catch and cook in the Middle East, lelu in Vanuatu, and berek in Poland. Blind man's buff. Being the blind man can be a forfeit. The first person caught must pay a forfeit. Blind man's buff is played in a spacious area such as outdoors or in a large room, in which one player, designated as it, is blindfolded and feels around attempting to touch the other players without being able to see them, while the other players scatter and try to avoid the person who is it, hiding in plain sight and sometimes teasing them to influence them to change direction. When the it player catches someone, the caught player becomes it and the catcher flees from them. Oranges and lemons. This version of the rhyme dates from 1858. So, ground rules or game rules. You have an arch. Two players face each other and join hands high to make a bridge, choosing secretly to be oranges or lemons. The song, other children walk under the arch in a line while singing the traditional nursery rhyme, oranges and lemons, say the bells of St. Clement's. The catch. On the final lines, here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes the chopper to chop off your head. The arch drops its arms to trap whoever is underneath. Tug of war. The court player is asked quietly whether they prefer oranges or lemons and stand behind that respective arch player. Once everyone is caught, a final tug of war decides the winning side. Oranges and lemons, said the bells of St. Clement's. You owe me 5 farthings, said the bells of St. Martin's. When will you pay me, said the bells of Old Bailey. When I grow rich, said the bells of Shoreditch. When will that be, said the bells of Stepney. I'm sure I don't know, say the big bell of Bow. Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head. Chop, chop, chop. And then tug of war. To start a contest, the judge shouts, pick up the rope. The next command is take the strain. When the rope is taut, with the centre line steady over the ground marking, he shouts, steady. The judge then gives the command, pull, to start the contest. A pull is won when one of the white markers on the rope is pulled over the mark on the ground. The outcome decided by the best of 3 pulls. The teams resting for 5 or 6 minutes between pulls and then changing end. There are various infringements that are not allowed: sitting, locking the arms around the rope, unorthodox grips, touching the ground with any part of the body other than the feet, or making footholds in the ground before the command "take the strain" is given. If a contestant accidentally falls over, he must get up immediately or the team is disqualified. Wife carrying. This type of contest is a feature of several traditional gatherings. Basically, it consists of a race in which each contestant runs with his wife thrown across his shoulder, holding her round the legs with her head facing backwards. Of all the different variations of racing whilst carrying a weight, this is probably the easiest to include in your Lammas games. The pairs of contestants need not necessarily be of the opposite sex, but try and make sure they are reasonably matched so that the race is fair. 100 yards or metres is a practical distance for wife carrying. So enjoy. Don't do anything silly, and be safe in your games. Blessed be.